Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, hit that like button. Thank you so much for everybody's love and appreciation on my channel. This is Mama Beauties here, coming at you from North Carolina. I am doing the last part of Nichol Kessinger's third interview. Remember, the first interview was at the Arvada Park. The second interview was only an audio that we heard with Nichol and her dad and the agent. And that was at the police station. The third interview, she comes back. She comes in with her phone. I already covered the first part of the interview where she talks about Charlotte and those text messages. Also, how she says she has important information and it just ends up being Chris not wanting the apartment and Chris saying when he got back from North Carolina that he was putting the house up and getting a divorce. And so nothing really crazy stood out to me so far, except for the things that I told you in my other video. So let's jump right in. I ended up missing a chunk at the end of my last video of the interview because I had to go use my facilities during that time, and I had left a whole front and back paper in my bathroom. And so when I did the video, I skipped this whole part. So luckily it was at the end. And so that's where I'm going to start, where she starts going into telling the agent, Kevin was his name, I believe, that she admits that the text that they're trying to retrieve from her old phone, because she's finally bringing in her phone that she used to use, the one she communicated with texts and phone calls with Chris, but she deleted everything on that phone. Remember, that was her iPhone, okay? So her iPhone, she deleted everything off of, and she brought the cops an audio of her calling Verizon, trying to get that those texts back, and she wanted them to know that she had done her due diligence by trying to retrieve those. So she recorded herself calling them and asking for it and that conversation, and she gave it to the guy, Kevin, the agent that was interviewing her, in a zip drive, which I found oddly peculiar. So then she cannot remember the password to the new Android phone she's using. It will have outgoing calls or incoming calls, and it will text, but that's all it will do. She hasn't put in her Google password, so you can't add any apps to it. And so they are unable to get anything out of NK's phone. They do not download anything out of NK's phone because they use an app for that. She gives her old phone as evidence, but they never ever got into NK's Android phone that she started using when she gave them her Apple as evidence. So I just wanted to let you guys know that up front, and that this is how it goes. When she's telling him about the text, she said that they came back in on her phone when she set it up on the Android, that some of the deleted texts reappeared in her phone, about 10 to 12 of them. And she said that she swears that that text on the 13th is messed up. And she says that that text on the 13th wasn't the 13th. And she is absolutely positive about it. But at this point, she doesn't bring up what the text says. She just tells him right away, because they're trying to get all the data off that phone. But again, because she conveniently can't remember her Google password, they cannot get anything off of that phone and just end up bringing it back to her. She says that it's only that one, but she forgets what it says. But she's sure it was on the 13th, but it wasn't the actual date of it. So she says the rest of them are fine, but this one on the 13th that I sent, I know that can't be on the 13th. There's just no way that I sent that on that day. And she's just backpedaling, but she refuses to talk about what the text says. And then Hazel is still in there, you know, trying to comfort her or whatever while she's talking to the agent. And Hazel reminds her to call the lawyer guy from CDLE and to get a therapist. And then Hazel asked about the copy of her contract so she could give it to that guy at CDLE, which I think is like legal services, free legal services, because she told him that same person could mediate her contract or get a good referral for her out of Tasman, the company that she was had a contract to work for Anadarko through. So she says that that maybe your dad can get it from your house, and that's when she says she doesn't want to go back to that house at all. That it's all on electronic files, so nobody would ever have to go back to that house. And that just solidifies Sherilyn Cadle saying dark things went on in Nicole's apartment. I think that she moved out directly after what Chris did because that just piled on top of everything else that was going on in there. NK says that sometimes she remembers stuff, but it's vague. And the detective tells her that not everything is important. Because at this point, she's saying, I have all this important information I want to share with you. And it was just that Chris became disinterested in looking at apartments, and that when he got back from North Carolina, the realtor was called and the house was put up for sale. The agent tells her to stop remembering and stop thinking about this case. And no one knows about her yet, to go out with her friends and have a normal night and just stop hoarding herself inside her home. NK asks if they're going to post anything about this if they don't find anything out. And agent asks, about what? And NK says, about me. And she's talking about the media. She says, it's been 4 days. And the agent says, you know, they are dying to find out about you and who you are. And she said, I know they have not reached my inner circle yet, like in a cocky little, She says, it's been 4 days again. And the agent says, you have good friends. And NK says, yes, I do. And we all know that she has good friends because nobody's came out to this day to say anything about NK. And you know that they could get a good bit of money, a good chunk of money. She makes sure to surround herself with people that already have money so they won't sell her out. The agent says, be thankful for that. And he said, we had this conversation where you said you were thinking about going somewhere else. And NK says, I don't know if I'm going to do that. She said, can you guys help me with a name change? And the agent says, so I can't do anything for you on that matter. That's a legal process. But it's not that difficult, he tells her. He says it's just paperwork that needs to be filled out. He said your best bet would be to get an attorney. And he said people change their name all the time, probably the county clerk. It's probably at a state level to make a name change. NK asked if that becomes public. She goes, because that would just defeat the purpose if it becomes public that I changed my name from this to this. And he tells her that the witness protection is very, very rare, but she hasn't asked him about that in this interview. So I think that she's been texting him because we picked that up when Hazel says, when she tells Hazel that she's been getting messages to her in the middle of the night when she's stressing out. And she said, I just contact you guys. So that just shows that they have been speaking with NK when she wakes up and can't sleep. She reaches out to these people. And so I guess she was asking him about witness protection in those messages because he says out of the blue, witness protection is very, very rare. She goes, yeah, I'm not expecting that. And she says, Chris is not going anywhere. She says she's terrified about not getting hired somewhere. And then the agent says, you realize this is not headlines in other states. And NK says, yeah, I do. And the agent says, if they run a background check on you and it shows that it basically just shows that you're a good employee, not that you dated Chris Watts and your involvement in this case. And then he tells her that it don't work like that. And she responds, I don't know. This is one of those things that if it goes to court, it will be like a huge thing. And then the agent agrees it's national right now, but it's not the Aurora shooting that happened 7 years ago or anything. And he tells her that she is under a microscope and feeling it and that she needs to just breathe. And he said for her to take a step back so she can make some decisions. And then NK says that she's saving for a house and she's trying to figure out how to do this without spending all of her savings. So we know here that this is why the job didn't mean that big of a deal to her, that she said it wasn't that big of a deal to go job hunting right away when she found out she lost her job. And that's because she had savings that she was keeping to buy a house. And in Colorado, those houses are expensive. So you need like $20,000 to $40,000 down to buy something in those houses out there. The agent says, at least you have savings. And she says, yeah, and hopefully unemployment till she gets her mind right and goes to therapy. She admits that not being ready, she's not ready to go back to work. And she's thinking about old employers, the ones that she left, and they were pretty much disappointed when she did. So she's tooting her own horn. And she always has been a good employee. And that was the first time she had ever been terminated. It was her dream job that she had at Anadarko. She always wanted to be out of the fields to work in the office in environmental for the oil company, and finally got it, and all of this happened, she said. She said, I forgot what I was going to ask. Are you guys? She then asked if she is in trouble for deleting all of his texts. And he says, no, you're not in trouble. And she says, I did not know what was going on at that point. And the agent says, it caused a question, but was it criminal? No. And does he think that she's hiding something? He said, potentially, yes, or he would not be asking for them. He says that she has been upfront with him, but until he sees text, it's just speculation. She says she didn't want to. She just didn't want to see him in her phone. She asked if she is allowed to address her friends to say no comment to the media, and he tells her to talk to the therapist and to her dad. And NK says her dad to some extent, but when he is not here for stuff like this, I don't tell him, she said. Well, I tell him I'm coming here, but he doesn't need to know anymore. And he tells her that there's no charges against her and that she's simply a witness. And NK says she don't want to get in trouble for talking to her dad or telling a friend she needs help. And she says what my dad already knows. She then says she don't even want to talk to her friends about it or want them to know anything or find out. She thinks she has stayed out of the media because no one knows anything or her inner circle, and they are really awesome. Agent says, or because you have no social media. And NK says she even searched herself on the internet and on social media. And if she found any pictures of herself with her friends, she immediately called them and told them to take them down. The agent admits she has made it difficult for people to find her. And she asked if he thinks they will find out where she is staying at because she thinks that would be very tricky. He says he doesn't even know where she's staying at. She says, no, I know. And the agent says, I don't know if it's connected to you or your family, but if it's in their name, it would not be hard to figure it out. And she says, nope. He says there's limited ways of finding out unless somebody knows and leaks it. And she says, nobody. At this point, she wants to go, but they have both her phones. They haven't came back and told her yet that they can't get anything off of her new phone, the Android, because she won't put that, when you get a phone and you're going to have to get apps or the Play Store, you have to put in on an Android phone a Google account or it won't let you do any of that. Well, she says she forgot it. She really didn't want to give them that Android phone that she had been using for the last few days because she didn't want them to see what she'd been texting her friends. And when she did give them information out of that phone, it was only her screenshotting it and sending it to the detective. And it was no other number but Chris's personal work number. I meant his personal cell phone number. His work number didn't even show up, but we'll get to that. So NK is ready to leave. She's tired of being in the room. You can see her fidgeting around. She has nothing to look at because she doesn't have her phone. And she knew by not signing in her Google account on that Android phone that they could not download the app that they needed to get the data out of it. She puts her sunglasses on for a brief second and she signs that release for the she sees it still sitting there and that it hasn't been signed, so she goes ahead and signs it. And she sits there alone for 5 minutes, you guys, flipping through the papers that she has, the stuff she signed. And then the agent comes in and NK asks if she can still do jury duty. Right in the middle of all of this, she asked him that. And he asked her if she has done it before. She said that they did not need her. So I wonder what she said in her pre-questioning when she had jury duty before, that they didn't need her. She said the last time they didn't need her, and can she use the restroom? She has been in this room drinking bottled water an hour and 45 minutes at this point. She leaves for the restroom at 1:42 minutes in the tape and returns at 1:45. So she's only gone for exactly 3 minutes, you guys, to go to the restroom. And she comes back holding her forehead and playing with her ponytail a lot. And the agent comes in 2 minutes later saying that he can't download data out of her new phone, so they're just going to screenshot those texts from Chris. And she suggests sending them to the agent. Then they go over the reappeared text together. This is where it gets interesting. She says, you know what's scary is I read this one from back from June 27th when he first started talking to me. And she says, it says he's loyal, truthful, dedicated, doesn't play games, just really makes me sad. And the agent says, are these some of the deleted text? And NK responds, I deleted everything. She says, look how old they are, 627 and 629. Then she says, the second and the third are missing. Then she says, there's the fourth, as they're going through these texts. She says, no text from the 6th, 7th, or 8th, but on the 9th, only one text. And then on the 17th, there's only one text. Now, she says there's a text on the 17th. Why is she still texting Chris on the 17th when the murders took place on Monday, August 13th? Okay. And you notice that she skips from the 9th and then goes to the 17th. She doesn't say anything about there's no text from the 10th, 11th, 12th, or 13th, except for one that she finds at the end that she's already solidified that text couldn't have came in on the 13th. Then here's the 11th, but look, only one from the 11th, she says. She said, and only text I think might be out of order, is the one over at the very end. The one that said it came in on the 13th at 2:44, you guys. NK says she wished there were more complete and she don't understand why they're coming in bits and pieces because you deleted them. When they all transferred over, you deleted the ones that you didn't want the detective to see and you left the ones that you could explain. The agent says, so the 10th, you went to the Rockies game. NK says, yeah, I didn't see him that day. I was with my friend, and they stayed the night with me. And we all know that that's Danielle because she sent her money back on the 12th for the taxi and the drinks, and we know that she went to the Rockies game. So she says, agent says, this one is on Sunday night at 4:07 p.m. What's he talking about? Pounding fruit, she says. And then she says that was about the birthday party. Then she says the one at the bottom, she don't know what it's referring to, or if it's in the right order. But she says that he said he was pounding fruit because he was at the birthday party and the guy was barbecuing, and that Chris was trying to eat cleaner and he stays away from hot dogs. So he was just pounding fruit and asparagus because he didn't want any of the barbecue or any of the hot dogs because he was trying to eat cleaner. Remember that. Because then she says that the one at the bottom, and she wants to make sure the detective knows that she doesn't think that one came on the 13th. But later pretends to not know what Monday is Knowing it's the 13th, she tries to pretend she doesn't know the date of Monday, and she tries to pretend that she doesn't know that the 13th is Monday. So then she reads the text out loud, and this is the text that blew my mind, you guys. She says that she thinks this one's out of order, or she doesn't know. She literally says that the one at the bottom, she don't know what it's referring to or if it's in the right order. Oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. They would freak out. That's what the text says. From NK at 2:44, the day of the murders. And we know that the police are already at Chris's house. And she texts him, oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. They would freak out. What do you guys think she means by that? Why would she be texting Chris that in the middle of all that mayhem? Let me read it again. It came in at 2:44, Monday, August 13th, after the murders, when Nichol Atkinson is at the house. Chris has already gotten back, let everybody in. She texts him, oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. They would freak out. Now, right before she shows this text to the detective, you need to remember that she says that the one at the bottom, she doesn't know what it's referring to or if it's in the right order. She already admitted that. But then when she sees how the detective responds to that text, she immediately says it was about the kids seeing unicorn Lucky Charms and that they would freak out. But she just said that she didn't know what it was referring to. And then immediately when she saw how he responded, that was the day of the murders, that she is texting him, oh my God, that is ridiculous. They would freak out. She immediately says she knows what it was for. She said she always incorporated in kids stuff, even if it was not him or her. She said when she would think or see cute stuff, she would text him, and it took her forever to come up with this, you guys. As she's trying to say it, it's like slowly coming out, like she's thinking, what can I say? It took her forever to come up with the unicorn Lucky Charms thing, because right before that, she said that she didn't know what it was referring to. She said she asked Chris if his little girls knew about this. And now that this is a total lie because of the healthy eating, why would she be sending him, give your child these horrible sugar-filled, marshmallow-filled Lucky Charms, but we're going to eat clean? So that's another reason I don't believe this unicorn Lucky Charms story. So she says that, especially when she just got done saying Chris wouldn't even eat hot dogs at this barbecue or none of the barbecue because he was trying to eat clean, but he's going to shove Lucky Charms in his kid's mouth. I don't know about that. So the officer says this text was the 13th. He has to tell her this text was the 13th. He realizes it. And then she stutters and says, I don't think I talked to Chris that day. She pretends not to know the 13th is Monday, aka day of the murders, you guys. And the agent says, I got to look, because the agent doesn't know what Monday is. NK says, was it Monday? She says, I think it was. Well, maybe they are in order then. Monday was the day I sent that text, I think. Then the agent says the text came in Monday at 2:44 p.m. Then she says, oh yeah, I was at work when I texted him, so it was in order, and this makes sense. She says, yes, in order, just missing a bunch. Then she covers her butt and says that she thought 8/13 was Tuesday, and she was not being nice to Chris that day. And so again, you guys, at 2:44, the day of the murders, and she is trying to say she's talking about Lucky Charms here. Miss Healthy Eater miscounts her carb intakes and macro intakes and all that, is trying to say this is about unicorn Lucky Charms. And 2:44, the day of the murders, after she's already told him to pawn Shanann's ring, she is saying, oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. They would freak out. So she starts screenshotting and sending the text to the agent and brings up Charlotte again because she wants to get away from that text. She doesn't even want to talk about that. And now she told her Chris was having his own kids made her uncomfortable. Oh no, the agent brings up Charlotte. So that's when, okay, so when the agent sees that she texts Chris this on that day, he gets her excuse about the Lucky Charms, and then he brings up Charlotte again and he says, well, tell me a little bit more about why you told Charlotte that Chris having his own kids made you uncomfortable. And she says it was because he goes, was it because you wanted your own family? And he says, put that into context for me, since she just put the Lucky Charms thing into context. The, oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. They would freak out. He says, is that a fair statement? She says, I guess, but I never told him that. Never. And she said she never said his wife was a problem. NK says she only meant she would not be with Chris if he did not want kids because it was what she evidently wanted. Then the agent says, so you're more concerned about his prior marriage than his children. She said, I guess. Honestly, I wasn't that worried about him at that time. If you read the majority of the text, you'll see that he was flattered by all the nice things I had to say about him, which was, she said, which she was 100% monogamous with him. She wasn't seeing any other men, but she doesn't say anybody else. She just says any other men. It wasn't like, hey, this is the guy I want to spend the rest of my life with, she says. Part of the reason she was uncertain is because he already built a life. But honestly, he was not out of the marriage he was already in. She says, so I mean, I'm not going to tell the whole world I got this guy I'm going to take, and I've got this guy and I'm going to take his kids in, and we're going to do this or we're going to do that. It's not because I have any problems with them, just he was married, and flails her head while she says this. So she basically says, I'm not going to take, she said, I'm not going to tell the whole world I got this guy. I'm going to take his kids in and we're going to do this. She then says she knows the context of that text looks so bad now looking at it. And the agent says, you got to look at it like we would. And that's why I gave you a chance to explain yourself. He says it could be made out to sound another way or misconstrued. And NK says, I don't mean any harm to those kids. I always thought they were so cute. When he showed me those pictures, he was all about them. She says when they recover the text that they will see that there's not much mention of his kids. And when they are mentioned, it's always cute stuff. Those little girls reminded me of me and my sisters, she said. And she talked about them having the same age gap as her and her sister. She says he called Cece Rampage since she was wild. It just made her smile. And she said, my sister was a rampage. She asked how long was Chris' brain been shifting to this paradigm shift where he feels the need to do this. And she said, I don't think that happens in a day or two or even in 2 months. She says, this takes a very long time to develop. She says he could have had the capacity to do that with her or in his life or not. With her in his life or not. She says that he could have had the capacity to do that with her in his life or not. She's trying to deflect some of the blame. Maybe not even to just them. It could have been me or our coworkers, she says. The more she thinks about it, she thinks people are going to think she was the catalyst for this, for his movements. But I don't think, not me instructing him to do it. Can you believe she said that? She said that she thinks people are going to think she was the catalyst for his movement. She said, but I don't think they're not me instructing him to do it or anything, but him deciding to do that because he had me in his life and he was so infatuated with what we had going on. But you know, I try to reason what she said, I try to put a reason to it. Why would you wipe out your family to be with me? I just don't compute. How would that go? hey, my family just disappeared, and you think I'm going to not be concerned about that? She says she would tell him to go hang out with his kids, and that's the hardest part for her to swallow. Why would you take them out to spend time with me? That was me pushing him. That wasn't him, she says. She said, that was me saying, go home and hang out with your kids. He never acted like he didn't want to hang out with them, but he would just say, can I hang with you for a few hours after work? And she says, if your kids are awake, go hang out with your kids. If they're asleep, you can talk to me, but don't do that while they're up. And I'm just, oh my God, that's the part I have the hardest time swallowing. Like, and then she pauses. It doesn't, and then she pauses, fit. It doesn't fit at all, you know. The agent said, but you said he was infatuated with you. But even then, if he was so all about me and I support him being with his kids, you would think he would want to do what would make me happy. Agent says, good point. NK says, what would make me happy? Agent interrupts and says, him hanging out with his kids. NK finishes saying, was his kids. She then says it's in text and phone conversations. Agent says we will look at it and says that one particular context in that text is so open for interpretation, and that's why I ask you to address it. He's talking about the unicorn Lucky Charms text. NK says, no, there's nothing like that in our text. I can tell you that right now. Nothing, never. The agent then asked her to send screenshots she has been sending for the past 20 minutes. He then asked her how she ever got any work done since she seems to get sidetracked a lot. She says, I actually got a lot of work done. It was a lot easier in the oil fields than it was in the office, though. She recites the agent's number and asks if that's his, and the agent says, yes, don't send those to anyone else, please. And she whispers, let's see how many. I can do a screenshot. And then the agent says, send them all at once. And he asks if she can attach each to his email. And she says, I want to do it like so you can see that I'm sending them all. So she refuses to email them. She has to text them to him. And then she goes, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I legitimately think his cheese was sliding off his cracker long before I came into the picture. And the agent asked if you stayed away from the media and reporting about him. And NK says, I guess they know where I live. She says, no, she's been watching. And the agent asked if she saw Chris's relationship video. And NK says, I can't even bring myself to watch most of that stuff. I just scroll through the headlines and if there's something different or if my name is in it. So I need to know if my name's in it. So I need to be prepared when that happens. She says she has a hard time looking at him now. And she says when she deleted text, she had saw his mugshot and she looked at it. And the first time she saw it, it scared her. And now when she sees it, she just looks right past it because I find it, and she pauses, to be, and she pauses, and then flings her fingers back and forth. And she gets sidetracked and says, I don't get it. Did I send it? Meaning the screenshots she's sending. Then she says she doesn't know how to work this new phone. And she goes, attach. And then tells the detective some are repeats and she's sorry, meaning the screenshots. And the agent says, it's okay as long as I have them all. That would be great. And she says, I think you do. And the agent says, looks like you've been drinking way too much coffee. And NK says, why? Because I'm shaky. And she says it's from sleep loss. Then NK says he doesn't have all the text, that he's missing that last one, that one she was so worried about. So when he said, make sure I have them all, it scared her into going ahead and sending that last one. And the agent says, send me the last one and I'll send you out of here. And don't think about this stuff for a while. And she complains about it being so different from the iPhone, the phone she's trying to send this last text from. So she's struggling. She's not sure she wants him to have that last text. And it's been years and years since she used that Android. And then she said, I actually had this phone because she realized that she had said earlier that she had had that phone in 2016. So that's not years and years. She remembered that it was just contradicting what she said at the beginning of the interview, that this Android phone was hers from 2016. But then she just said she's had that phone years and years, which wouldn't be just 2 years early, would it? And the agent interrupts her and doesn't let her finish and says he wants to find the Anadarko number so she can search that phone on her new Android phone and to see if there's any messages from his Anadarko number that showed up. And they had possession of her iPhone, so they didn't really need anything out of that. They were able to pull all the data off of that iPhone. And he says that once they have that she can leave that day with her Android phone. And then he leaves her alone and she acts distressed, grabbing and rubbing her face, staring off in space. She sings something very briefly to herself. And then she sighs, grabbing her head again, looking down at the text. She starts scrolling through the phone. The agent comes in and tells her Chris's work number. And then she looks it up on her new phone and she asks what day was Monday. Again, she asked what day was Monday, trying to pretend like she didn't know it was the day of the murders. The agent says Saturday was the 11th, so 13th would be Monday. NK says, okay, so it would have been on the 15th when she texts Chris's work number. He asked her if there were earlier texts and could she search that number, and she plays dumb and acts like she doesn't know how to search the number. And she finally figures it out, types the number in, and nothing comes up for Chris's number. And the agent says, okay, his number's not on your new phone. And NK whines and says, I tried. And the agent says, how about a call log? She says, let's see then. Nope, did not update my call log. She thought it was weird that messages were showing up without the other ones. And he says that he will call her in 2 weeks and the interview ends. But you guys, the first time I never picked up that NK was so distressed about the detective seeing that text that said, oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. They will freak out. And she's saying that she sent that to him for the girls' Lucky Charms. So I just don't know about that by that point. What do you guys think? Why do you think NK sent him that text message that she's saying that the girls are the ones that she's talking about freaking out, and it would be freaking out over Lucky Charms, marshmallow, unicorn cereal that healthy eaters would never feed to their kids? So I'll be going live soon. We'll go over this. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Smash that like button. Smash that notification button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. And welcome. My name is Mama Beauties, and I'm here to bring you everything there is to know about the Chris Watts case, the Patrick Frazee case, and lots of other cases that have been in the public's eye for years. So thank you for your love. You guys have a great night.